Hello, everyone. So this is one of those segments where a student has requested an interview with a funeral director, and I am very quick to say, hey, I'll do it. But this also provides an opportunity that you get to hear just a little more general information about me and about the business. So here are questions from Soraya, a student. So she first wanted to know just my job title, kind of where I work and what I do. And I'm Kari Northy. I am Kari the Mortician, guys. And I am a freelance funeral director in Michigan. That means that I do trade embalming, I do day coverage, funeral coverage, just freelance work for several different funeral homes. So sometimes I may have multiple clients. Sometimes I may just be working for one funeral home at a time. It really just depends on the ebb and the flow of business. So it can, I can have, multiple embalmings a week. I can have no embalmings for months. It really just depends on how things are going. So also schooling certifications. So I have a bachelor's degree in psychology and a bachelor's degree in mortuary science. To do mortuary science, you do your state boards, your national boards. So you have to be board certified after you do an apprenticeship and after you do your schooling. So those are my boards and the certifications. And what does a typical day look like for me? So I think that's the beauty of this job, is that every day can be completely different. Some days I might not speak to like any living people. I might just embalm or get somebody ready for a viewing, and then some days I might be meeting with the families and working funerals and talking to hundreds of people. Each day is a little different, and I think that's what the beauty of the day is like. So there is no typical day. Literally no 2 days are alike. So it just really depends. And we may not have any calls going on, so I may do practically nothing. Well, not really nothing, but nothing in terms of what you may see from the outside. I may do file closing and follow-up phone calls and emails and cleaning old files or cleaning bathrooms or dusting the casket room or something. So there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff that we do that can fill a day. Just going out in the community and connecting with community members and things. It can fall in there if you're having a little bit slower day in terms of workload within the funeral home. You do these other things as well. Call a pastor, take them to lunch, catch up on your emails about advertising and all those things. So each day is going to be completely different, and it depends also on your role within the funeral home. If you manage, the business side more than the personnel side, or if you're with the personnel more than the business. So all very different. What are my job duties? Kind of the same thing. It just depends what funeral home I'm working at and what my role is there on that day. Usually, though, when you get into work in the morning, you kind of see what your workload looks like for the day. Who died overnight? What families need to be called? Who needs to be met with? What funerals are going on? What deceased are there, and do they need to be geared towards cremation or burial? Do we need to do an embalming? Do we need to dress and casket somebody? So a lot of those things are what you have to kind of just figure out, what the day looks like, what staff is there, and whose role is going to be what for the day, essentially. So that's kind of how a day is going to start, no matter what funeral home you're in, because a lot can change overnight. You may have nothing going on one day and then may have 10 deaths overnight that you then need to figure out, handle, calling the families and getting that all set up. So it can change very, very quickly. Describe your career path and what led you to the place you are today. Well, when I started in the business, I was 16 and I needed a job. And so I started working just that evening shift and weekend shift at the funeral home, answering phones, swinging door, as some might call it, where you greeted people at visitations and funerals, and then the setup and the cleanup and everything of the chapel and of the building and doing paperwork and office things. So I was just that extra helper person around the funeral home. I went to college, and partway through college did my apprenticeship. After I got my first bachelor's, then I went to mortuary school, did my apprenticeship and everything and just kept moving forward. I worked at one funeral home for a long duration. And then after that, did some freelance funeral directing work. And then I was at another funeral home for several years and then went back to freelancing. So freelancing has really just fallen into the areas of my life at the right time when I needed a little more flexibility and, you know, starting family and things. I was able to, you know, do the work when I needed and take some time when I needed as well. So it really was a good balance for me as a new mom and a wife and everything. What were some of your early roles in the field? Just that basic, that helping role and doing some of the helper things to the funeral director. And I think that has been a key thing for me, is that I kind of have done those roles leading up to the funeral director. So I have done all the office things. I've made the folders, I've made videos, I've worked parking lot, I've washed cars, I've kind of done all the roles around the funeral home. And I think when you do all the roles around the funeral home, you appreciate them more, and it also makes you more versatile. So when I go in and do freelance, I can go into all these areas. I can jump in and do folders and videos. And so if maybe the funeral director usually does those because it's a small funeral home, I can easily jump into those roles, which makes it really nice. So I think that has been a big key, is working the full gamut of the positions around the funeral home over the course of my career. Are there any skills that you feel are important to have for somebody interested in a job like yours? I think there's skills that you can teach and skills you can't teach. I think it's really hard to teach somebody how to connect with humans, how to just genuinely be able to carry on a conversation and approach things in a casual conversation type situation, rather than just sit down and be all business with someone. Because this role, you have to do kind of both, where you're talking business, but you're also just getting to a core level with another person because they've just lost somebody. They want to trust and connect with you, but some people are really coming in with hesitations, and you have to be able to connect on both sides. If you go in just all business, that connection is not going to be there, and that customer experience is not going to be there for them either. And so you need to kind of have both, and that's really hard to teach. It's personality, and it's just what and who we are in general, and it's hard to teach that. You can teach somebody numbers and you can teach logistics, but to be able to implement them is hard. So there's some parts of the job and personality that you definitely, if they're ingrained already, it makes things much easier. What would you recommend somebody who is interested in this job to study in college? Well, it's a very clear career path for this in terms of getting your mortuary science license. There's prerequisites for mortuary science school and for each state for your apprenticeship. And so your career path is laid out in terms of schooling to get your licensure. So you stick along those course. If you are keen on, I just use the word keen. If you're keen on owning your own business, then maybe taking some more business classes and taking things that will help you with that side of it, managerial classes and stuff, in addition to the mortuary science part, would be a big help. If you plan on working in pre-need more and focus on maybe doing more of the insurance and stuff, then maybe taking some more accounting and things. So you could take a few more courses geared towards certain areas, but it's a pretty good overall laid out plan of your schooling going into this. I think my psychology degree I had previous helped. Definitely. I'm so curious about psychology and something that interests me. So maybe that part of dealing with families was, heightened with my degree and then getting to meet with families and stuff. So I do delve into a little more of that, I feel like. with people. What kind of challenges do you face day to day? Oh, I think there's the unknown of every family and just of personalities in general. You know, we really truly do work with every type of person. So, you know, from every religion, every belief, every socioeconomic group, everything. We meet with people and have to connect with people in all of those different areas and do it unbiasedly, do it with no judgment about the situations and about everything. You know, if I sit down with a family who is a polygamist family and I'm sitting down caring for, you know, the woman died and I'm meeting with him and the other sister wives, then, you know, I can't sit there in judgment on them. That's their choice and theirs. It's not my belief, but that's their belief. And I need to be respectful of people, regardless of their belief or not. It's kind of like you know, like we take, not this oath, because we don't take an oath, but we go into the profession with an open mind and an open heart to care for people. And we have to try and remember that throughout. So that, I think, is a big challenge for sure, is to remain non-biased and care for everybody and deal with every type of situation. Is there something you wish you had known before starting this career? Gosh, that's a big one. I don't know. I think that there's so much you can't know going forward. New generations coming in, I think, is always going to change and, you know, evolve the field. And that is something we can't ever really know how that's going to affect the business. It would have been, I think, knowing maybe at one point we'd run into this point in our profession where we have the older generation and the new generation, and there's like this wall right now. And I think that is a big challenge going on within the profession. And knowing that maybe going in, or years ago, I don't know, preparing for that a little bit more. Maybe I could have done more years ago, or maybe, I don't know. That to me is such a big challenge right now that maybe I would have liked to have been prepared for that a little more, but I don't know what we could have done to change it, truly. But maybe that. Was there anything that surprised you about this field? I don't think that there's anything really that surprised me. I'm always humbled by new situations that maybe I never could have even dreamed up, new ways that people die, or familial situations in terms of, you know, like exes and new marriages and children and all these different scenarios, that so many fractured families and so many people that don't talk to their family, and things that has surprised me, I think, over time. You know, the things we get to see that nobody else should, murders and things that people do to each other, anger and what anger looks like in physical form on somebody else, and just that stuff really, I think, will always shock me, because I like to believe the best and believe good, and that stuff I think will still always surprise me a bit. What's the most rewarding part? Oh, the warm and fuzzies. You guys hear me always talk about this, the warm and fuzzies, that feeling you get when you know you've taken one nugget of burden off of somebody by helping them through the moment. And that will always forever be the most rewarding. What's my favorite part of this job? There's so many. I love all those little moments, those little nugget moments where I can be talking with the family about picking out a folder, and they're overwhelmed by all the choices, and how do we ever pick something out? And I can recommend something and they love it. That's always a really great moment, when I've connected enough with a family that I can recommend things that they are like, oh my gosh, that's perfect. those are great moments for me. Just getting through, standing at the graveside, casket is lowered down, everything is done, and you see the family just take this breath, like we've gotten through, we're on to the next stage, and knowing that it went pretty seamlessly for them is always a really rewarding moment. What do I like least about the job? I'm going to tell you, just like any job, it's the politics. It's the politics of working with people and business running and just all those political logistics of that stuff. That's the worst part. It's not the sadness and all of that. It's truly, I can work through all of that part of it. But the things that make me want to not go into work sometimes over the years have been just icky work environments where, you have bosses who don't get it, or coworkers you're kind of in conflict with, or just crap at the office. And so that has been, I think, the times I've not wanted to go to work over the years. Where do I see myself in 5 to 10 years? Whew, sky's the limit. Because if you'd asked me 5 years ago, I would have never thought I would be ever posting a video on YouTube. Here I am. And so I would like to think I'm going to still be educating. I'm going to be caring for families and caring for deceased, maybe more diving into the educational role, and hopefully bigger, better videos, bigger, better information, bigger, better helping of people. I don't know what that's exactly going to look like. I mean, with technology, who the heck knows? There's so much could happen over the years, but hoping that everything just continues to grow and I continue to hopefully make a positive impact when it comes to this business and this whole role that I'm navigating through. How do I see the funeral industry changing? Well, I think that it's always going to be moving forward and evolving with technology, with disposition options and choices. Water cremation has been around for a while, but look how slow it takes to come into play. Anything in this business moves really slowly. It really does. So I'm interested to see what people gravitate towards as it becomes more of an option, like human composting and all these things that are coming onto the scene, so to speak, that it'll be interesting to see how mainstream some of that becomes, how traditional changes in its form. So I don't know what it'll look like. Who knows what can be dreamed up in the next, 10 years of the business. Is there anything else I want to share about myself? It says, I'm just thankful I get to have a platform to do this. I never imagined, but I find that the more I do, the more I'm wanting to come back and do more and share more and connect with more people. And I have met some of the most amazing people so far in this industry, and I'm so thankful for those connections, but I only can dream of how many more people I get to connect with as things grow and as I expand, that it all comes back to that root of the families I meet with every week and how amazing they are. I have so many people that I get to meet with and stories I get to hear about their deceased loved ones, and that to me is like the best thing. I'm very known for saying, oh my gosh, I love that family as soon as I get done meeting with them. And it's just true. I fall in love with people very quickly, and I fall in love with their stories and their relationships and their lives that they've lived. And that is just the coolest thing that I get to do that. So thank you for the questions. Good luck with your paper you're writing. But thank you everybody for watching, and hope you learned a little something new about me today. Bye.